Hi everyone, welcome to OCD Live. I'm Greymond, and let's get to some questions. I'm going to reply to some of the questions I've gotten over the last few days, and if you guys have your own questions, please put it in the chat window and I will reply to them as I get them. Okay, so actually before I get to the questions, I wanted to talk about treating OCD like a bully. And this is a topic that has been discussed in a lot of books, and if you don't know this kind of approach, I think it's important, and it's important to mention just in general because it's a good reminder as well. Um, I find that it helps when you treat OCD as your enemy because it really is your enemy. And it acts all tough, but it's really nothing. So in that way, it's exactly like a bully in the playground in school, right? That the more you pay attention to the bully, the more you uh, kind of act scared or whatever, act like you care in some way, the worse the situation will get. But if you start to ignore the bully and not pay attention, I mean, they can't get you if you're not reacting, if you're not responding, and if you continue to not respond. Because what's going to happen if you stop responding to a bully? At first, this person is going to try to really get you to get a reaction out of you. Just like your brain, right? If you stop OCD behavior, such as reassurance, avoidance, and compulsions, the first thing it's going to try to do is to get you back into it. Although for a different reason than the bully, right? Because the bully is trying to get you to react and the mind is trying to protect you, but in the same way, really. So, and as you continue to not pay attention even while it's tough, it's going to let go because there's nothing there. You're not reacting, and that has to be the bottom line. No matter what kind of thought it throws at you, you're not reacting because OCD is a bully and you need to stand up to it, because once you stand up to it, you understand that there's nothing here. There's just nothing. So, and then you're not going to be scared anymore. And this is why I'm doing the show, and as well as all of my other videos, that the more you pay attention to OCD in the way of its mechanics, and the more you start to understand how OCD really works, the least surprised you will be when you get a new thought. So you start to understand how it works. That, okay, for example, you were driving down, say, Main Street, and you thought you hit something like, I don't know, a speed bump or whatever, and you thought you hit a person. And now you're driving down, King Street, for example, and what do you think? You're gonna get another thought or not? Of course, you're gonna get another thought. So it's very, very logical because you reacted to the first thought with fear. Now, if you didn't react to the first thought with fear, if you resisted it, you might still get a thought, but the anxiety that is associated with the thought in the moment that's going to be sent to you is going to be much, much lower because you chose not to react to the first thought. And then when you get a third thought, it's going to be even less than that. So the further you go, the least invasive and intrusive these thoughts are going to be, and the easier time you will have just simply ignoring them. So it's not going to be as hard anymore, and you're going to be able to, move on with your life, basically. Okay, so now let's go over, I get this question actually a lot. Is this an OCD thought? And I've talked about it in various videos, but it's a topic that just keeps being brought up, so I guess it's good to bring up here as well. So how do you know this is an OCD thought? And this kind of feeds into what you should do to find out that it's an OCD thought and what you should definitely not do. So the thing that you should definitely not do is look into the thought much further, okay? So for example, you are worried, what if something happened, right? In whatever situation your theme is in, okay? OCD theme, I mean. So you worried, what if something happened? The worst thing to do is to start mentally going back to the situation, trying to figure it out, analyze it to death, maybe ask some people around you who were in the situation or who have knowledge of the situation or just have knowledge that you find their opinion valuable. That's the worst thing to do, because by that you're sending a signal to your mind that the thought is relevant, and after you send the signal to your mind that this thought is very relevant, very important, what do you think your mind is going to do? Your mind's just a machine. It's going to send you more thoughts. So I see your question here. I'm just going to finish my point and I'm going to answer it right away. So the thought, just a second. Yeah, so, sorry, I'm getting confused here a little bit. So that's the wrong thing to do when it comes to an OCD thought, is to seek all of this reassurance. Now, but you still think, what if it's an OCD thought? What if it, is this an OCD thought rather? So what you should do is just say, I know this is an OCD thought based on the fact that I've had this thought before. Nobody else would worry about this, and I don't need to check if anybody would worry about this. I know instinctively nobody would worry about this because I've already asked them a million times about a million other thoughts, you know? And, you know, just because you know people very well, that nobody would worry about this thought but you. So that already tells you that's an OCD thought. Also, if a thought starts with what if, real problems, when you think of something and it's a real problem, they don't start with what if. They're either there or they're not there, but it's not a what if situation. What if is an OCD situation. So if it follows that criteria, immediately write it off as an OCD thought and try to refocus on something else. And the reason why you need to refocus is that your mind, just because you chose to believe it's an OCD thought, it doesn't mean your mind is just like, you know, ready to move on. It needs something else to grab onto. So you're saying to your mind, okay, I don't want to pay attention to this. I am choosing to think that this is an OCD thought. I am also choosing to focus on this, and you got to give it that. Because if you're choosing to focus on nothing, it's going to go back to the thought and say, well, are you sure? It still might do that, but if you give it something else to focus on, it's going to do that with a lot less a lot lower ability, let's say. You know, it's not going to have as much power to put towards those fears, you know. Okay, and a question here I had, can OCD affect my menstrual cycle? I would say your menstrual cycle can affect OCD, because usually around the menstrual cycle, just like you're getting like PMS symptoms if you are, OCD kind of becomes not it's not the same, but it becomes worse as your menstrual cycle starts, basically. So, and you will see, for some people it's worse in the beginning, for some people it's worse towards the end of it, but usually there is a fluctuation where you can see month after month that, you know, during this time you feel worse. And the best thing I can suggest for that is just be prepared, you know, that, you know, okay, say, you know, my menstrual cycle should start, you know, tomorrow or the next day. I know I will feel worse, and or just started. I know I'm gonna feel worse, so I'm gonna do my best to not pay attention to the thoughts, to not keep them going. Because if you know you're about to get an OCD attack and then you get it, you're not surprised. So you're not gonna be scared by it because you understand that, okay, I was expecting it, here it is. OCD is very logical, there's nothing to it. Obviously it's not true because it's, you know, works like a clockwork. Why? That would be perfect timing if, you know, something happened and at the same time you had your menstrual cycle and at the same time you got OCD, you know. That doesn't happen. So, you know, if all of those things are happening at the same time, it's just more proof for you that it's OCD. Not that you should be seeking proof because it's reassurance, but anyways, you know, it just kind of lets you know that it's ridiculous, you have to move on. But yeah, I would say that most of the time, and for myself as well, that around the menstrual cycle you do feel a little bit worse. And I think all women feel a little bit worse just generally. um, okay, so next question. Oh yeah, okay. Why this particular obsession? So, why this obsession? I don't know if we went over it in one of the other shows, but I'll go over it now anyways. Um, the reason why you're having this particular obsession is because that is, whatever you're worried about is the thing that affects you in your life the most. So, for example, when we are kids, the worst thing for us is something happening to the parents. That for a kid is like the worst of the worst that could possibly happen. So a lot of the times the kids will start to do things and associate like something bad happening to the parents because of it. So for example, like they'll count like something, and if it doesn't add up right, then something bad will happen to the parents, or they have to put this and this just right so nothing bad will happen to the parents, stuff like that. Then as they grow older, then they can have other obsessions that have to do with things like puberty and like future and all of this kind of stuff, right? And then as they grow even older, they might start to develop this. They get into a relationship. You know, it's getting like a relationship is getting serious. They're in their 20s and all of this. So they start to worry about the relationship. Or if they're not relationship oriented, they might start worrying about their careers or their jobs. Or and then once they have kids, they might start worrying about the kids. So it just attaches to whatever you are worried about in your life journey. And this is why I say that it's a futile effort to fix a specific obsession. Yes, you need to fix it. Like when I talk to clients, we do work on fixing the specific obsession. That is important. But it shouldn't be the only thing you're doing to recover from OCD. You need to have the knowledge of how OCD works, and that has to be primary even before fixing the obsession. Because, for example, a person is okay, a good example is like relationship OCD. A person gets a relationship OCD for, say, 10 years, okay? And the relationship OCD is pretty severe. They're always worried. For example, it's like a cheating OCD. They're always worried about, say, the partner cheating or themselves cheating or whatever, right? And then, God forbid, something happens to the partner passes away. Okay? No more relationship OCD because no more partner, right? And but that doesn't mean that the OCD is lost. It just means that, or the person gotten over OCD, okay? That just means that kind of OCD is laying dormant, trying to find a different topic to attach itself to. So, and I can almost guarantee you that within a month at the most, that person is gonna get another OCD thought, if not sooner than that. Now, will it attach? Probably, because they haven't learned the correct ways of doing things, So that's the thing. Or another thing is that, again, another example of this, that the person has relationship OCD. Then all of a sudden, they're married, a new baby comes in, right? So they have a baby, and now, even though the relationship is important, because the baby kind of takes priority and takes all of the focus away from the relationship, and the person starts to obsess about the baby, that what if something happens to the baby or whatever, right? So so these things change, and don't worry that if you're getting this obsession now that it will last forever. So all that means is that the reason why you're getting, I'm sorry, sometimes I just drift off of the topic, but what I was leading to is that the reason why you are having this particular obsession is because that's what's the most precious to you right now, okay? If your priorities change, if your situation changes, it will change as well. So you just need to know that if you're having a thought and it's a repetitive thought, it's giving you a lot of anxiety, it's a what if thought, you don't have any proof or have very kind of little and scattered proof, nobody else would worry about this, then you shouldn't worry about it either, and you need to move on no matter what this obsession is. Because eventually, if you like, if you keep going without getting over OCD, eventually you will get a new obsession, and you'll get an obsession that you have never gotten before, and that'll be your first time. And if you don't react correctly, that obsession will be just as bad as your obsessions, the theme of obsessions that you're having now. You basically will start a new theme. So you need to know how OCD works, so you prevent it from happening. Because, you know, the only reason you're having this obsession right now is because that is what the most precious thing to you. It doesn't mean you're a bad person that is thinking horrible thoughts about, I don't know, your relationship or about something else. Or, you know, in case of like driving OCD, why am I worried about driving so much? Am I going to run over people or whatever? It just means that, especially with harm OCD, people who have harm OCD specifically are the most kindest, most loving people. And the thought of causing harm to somebody is so scary to them that that is what they focus on, because that is the scariest thing that they can imagine. So that's why they focus on it, because being a good person is the most important thing to them. And so the harm thing just kind of, you know, comes out of that, basically. So don't attribute to yourself, because that is the biggest mistake people make when it comes to OCD, and that is why they seek reassurance, is because they attribute these thoughts to their personality, to their mind, to themselves. They're not. They're auto-generated based on your value system, beliefs and values. That's all. There's nothing more to it. Trust me, I talk to so many people every single day. You know, I talk on the weekends, I talk during the week, I have my own experiences from when I had OCD and got over it a long time ago, you know. So I'm telling you, there's nothing in these thoughts. Not once have I seen the person who was a bad person, or person thought something and it came true or whatever. Not once. Not to give you reassurance, but you need to know the reality of OCD. If you're going to start playing this on repeat, though, that is an obsession. Just so you guys know, because I know people do that. Can you fully recover from OCD? And I've already addressed this in the previous question, that recovery from OCD and recovery from the thought are two different things. Also, everybody gets thoughts and everybody gets obsessed. So you have to have a clear kind of understanding of what's going to happen when you recover. You are going to be anxious from time to time. You're going to get irrational thoughts from time to time, because people get irrational thoughts and people think weird things from time to time, but they don't attribute any importance to it. People without OCD don't attribute any importance to it. For them, it's natural. For you, it has to be a learned behavior. So once you get over this particular thought just by doing exposures and all of this stuff, not refusing reassurance, you know, all the stuff that I usually talk about, you're going to get a time where you're not going to get any thoughts, okay? So you're not going to get any thoughts, and then a thought will come up, just a weird, irrational thought. If you attribute importance to that thought, guess what's going to happen? So you have to make sure you're not attributing any importance to these new thoughts, and then, yeah, you're over OCD. More even, I would say even more over, that when you have real life thoughts like problems, you know, we all face problems and situations and stress, you can handle those as OCD as well and say, you know what? I can't do anything about this. I'm not going to dwell on it because I can't actually do any action to better the situation, and I'm just going to move on. So you can treat those as OCD as well, because your mind will, again, just like everything else, it watches for your reaction. So you are the one in control of the ship, like you, real, true you. You tell the mind not to think about it, it's not going to bring it up again. Or it's going to bring it up once or twice and then just drop it. But you start paying attention to it and dwelling on the situation, and it's just going to get worse and worse. You know, so it's important to pull back and pull away from it. How are we doing on time here? Okay. Okay, oh, and another thing I wanted to kind of bring up here too is OCD and forums. Okay, so online forums, OCD support groups, and that type of a thing. I was actually speaking of support groups, is I am thinking of starting a support group from the website. I don't know if you guys think it's a good idea. Please let me know if you would be interested in something like that. It's just in the planning stages right now, because I think it's a really good idea, because a lot of the times when I'm talking to clients, and I will talk about to one person and then they'll talk to another person, right after, and they're saying the exact same things and worrying about the exact same things, you know? And I feel that if one person would have just heard what the other person was saying, they wouldn't have that anxiety. They would see that there's another person just like you saying the same thing, and theirs doesn't make sense and yours doesn't make sense. It's all OCD. And I think that it's important to have that connection with people and be able to see your OCD or similar to your OCD thought from a third person perspective, looking at another situation. And the two difficulties I'm kind of having with that right now is, and maybe you guys can help me and tell me if you have any ideas. So if we do a group of people, I would like to, I need to have active participation so it doesn't become a reassurance group, because it's too easy to fall into reassurance, as I know from my own example as well. Um, and in order, say if we have a group of 10 people, okay, each person needs at least 10 minutes to talk about their situation, right? So 10 people times 10 minutes each, and this is if we're really kind of keeping with the time, that's already 100 minutes, you know? So this is going to be a very, very long kind of thing, and I'm planning to do it over Skype. So if you're interested in the group sessions like this, the group meetings, please let me know, and we can work it out. If you have any ideas how to shorten it, I don't think there is a way to shorten it. And to this extent, I also wanted to talk about the forums, online forums and OCD. Is unless the forum is really moderated and really kind of led by a person or people who know what they're doing, a lot of the time people fall onto reassurance. So they go back to the forum again and again and again just to get reassurance that, is this an OCD thought? Okay. Okay, guys, is this an OCD thought? Okay. And they just keep on going like this, and while it helps in the moment, and I've been there, so I understand that it helps in the moment, but over time you are making yourself worse, and the next thought you're going to get is going to be worse. So I would say, as much as possible with these forums and support groups, unless you know who the person that's leading it, like for example, I would never allow reassurance at my support group. So but if the person is kind of like, oh, okay, it's fine, um, I don't know, it's just not a good idea, because then people start to go for the wrong reasons, and instead of getting better, they're going and getting worse. Overall, they're getting worse. They might think they're in the moment they're better, but then the day after that they get a thought, and then they start to feel even worse than they did. Or sometimes if the person who is leading the group is not careful about how they're wording things or the questions that they're asking, one person might react to another person's OCD. So that's kind of another thing. I would say for forums and for support groups, because sometimes people can't afford the recovery programs, whether with me or with other people, and I think support group would bridge that gap where the payment would be much lower, but and it's kind of like a little bit of a different thing that you get back, that it's not so much one-on-one, but you get a group opinion of what you should do, and but in a constructive way, not in a reassurance way, but in actually helping you recover. Okay, I have another question here. Is it okay to get a thought or doubting a memory and then wait just a second. Is it okay to get a thought or doubting a memory and instead of reacting in any way? I don't understand what you're trying to say. Okay, and instead of reacting in any way, just to tell myself that if I did mean to think that or do that. Okay, is this a finished question? Sorry, I'm not really understanding what you're asking me. We're gonna wait for the person to respond. Sorry, they're writing to me in like short, like half sentences, so I'm not really understanding what the thing is. Okay, okay, so I'm gonna read it over again. Is it okay to get a thought or doubting a memory, and instead of reacting in any way, just to tell myself that if I did mean to think that or do that, that is too bad, and I didn't, and I didn't mean, that's even better. But the point is to not react and let it go right away. Yeah, the point is not to react and let it go right away. Oh no, it's okay. Don't worry. So the person is saying, sorry, the question didn't fit. No, yeah. Whenever you get a thought, you don't want to be looking into it. The more you look into it, the worse that this is gonna get. Because, okay, so say again. I always kind of bring up the driving situation because it's kind of universally understood. So, if a person is driving along and they thought they hit something and they just say, "This is an OCD thought. I'm not reacting." They don't have anything. The OCD doesn't have anything else to throw at them. But if they start to look at the car, like, get out of the car, start looking at the car for any marks and scrapes and all of this, look at the surroundings, see if anything was there, they're gonna find something is gonna be out of place where they will notice it. Not even out of place, but something they will notice. And then they're gonna have to dismiss the thought as well as that additional something. So the original thought and then this new thing that they saw. So it just becomes much, much harder. And on top of it, next time they'll be driving, they're going to get another thought, even worse than this one, because they've reacted with fear to this one. So the next thought is going to be even more severe. So definitely, definitely just dismiss it right away and give your mind something else to focus on quickly. So I'm not paying attention to this. I'm moving on, and here's what I'm gonna move on to. Because if you give your mind another thing to focus on, it's gonna have to put energy towards it to actually, focus on it. And we'll have to at least let go a little bit of the thought. And this is your chance to kind of like squish the thought, get it out, by again giving your mind other things to worry about. So after the first thing you gave to your mind, give it the second, third, keep it busy until it moves on. So I hope that answers your question here. If not, please let me know and I can explain better. Also, if you guys have any other questions or something is unclear, please put it in the chat window and I will reply. Also, if you want to send me a more detailed question, you can send it to info@youhaveocd.com. And when you send me a question though, like through the info@youhaveocd.com, please mark if you want the question to be public through the live show or private that you want me to just reply in the email. I do suggest for you to, if possible, to make it a public question. I'm not going to say your name. I'm not going to say your particular situation. I'm just simply going to say the gist of the question, right? So I'm not gonna, it's anonymous, so I'm not gonna say anything that will kind of link you to the question in any way. But it's just, I find it really helps because other people are having the exact same thought as you, and if they hear it, and I might have not had this question before on the show, so it just really helps to for other people to hear it and know that they're not alone, and and maybe, like I said, maybe I didn't answer that kind of question before, so it just helps. If not, then I can do it privately as well, and that's fine as well too. But just please mark it either way so I know. So I guess that was the show for today. Thank you. You're very welcome. They're just writing thank you to me. And I'm here every day. So if you have any questions, or if you feel like you're not really ready today, but you can ask tomorrow, please come back tomorrow and we will talk about more questions that I get. Oh, I have one more. Okay, we'll squeeze it in here. Okay, I'm not sure if you have talked about it before, but can you discuss about sexually intrusive thoughts, especially when they are related to close family members and are irrational and blasphemy? Okay, so okay, is it okay if I answer this question first thing tomorrow, because we're running out of time and I really kind of it's two different topics and I want to devote more than 5 minutes to this? Just write me yes or no. Because if you're feeling really bad, we'll extend the show today, but if not, then if we can do it to tomorrow. So hopefully we can extend this to tomorrow. I will answer your question first thing when the show starts tomorrow. Um, and if you guys have any more questions, please email me at info@youhaveocd.com. Come back tomorrow and listen to the show. I'm very thankful for you guys all to be here, and this is, I think that this will really help a lot of people. I'm honestly, I'm really thankful for you guys being here, supporting this and all of this. um, if you guys go also to youhaveocd.com, there's free articles there. There's some books. If you don't have enough money to buy the book, just email me, let me know, I'll send you the book. It's not a big deal. um, and I also have the recovery program, which is one-on-one talking with me, so you guys can check that out as well. And yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you for watching again.